In June 1943, 5 months after America's victory at Guadalcanal, U.S. forces launched their assault on Japanese-held New Georgia in the Solomon Islands. Their primary objective, the strategic airfield at Munda Point. Among the defenders was Lieutenant Toshihiro Oura, a Japanese Army officer whose diary would survive to provide a haunting glimpse into the final days of a doomed garrison. On June 30th, American troops landed on Rendova Island, 8 miles from Munda, while 2 regiments of the 43rd Infantry Division began landing at Zanana. The Americans quickly positioned artillery on Rendova and nearby islands, setting the stage for what would become a relentless bombardment that would break the Japanese defenders psychologically before they were defeated militarily. June 29, 1943. Oura's diary begins with deceptive calm. "I wonder if they will come today," he writes, noting the morning drizzle and uncomfortable breeze. The previous day's air battle had favored the Japanese. 9 enemy planes shot down with no friendly losses. Morale was high, belief in invincibility intact. In a touching moment of normalcy amid war, Oura describes sharing donuts made by the maintenance detachment. "They were awfully small, but each one of us had 20 or so. Whether actually tasty didn't matter. In their sugar-starved condition, each one was a treasure." Lying on the sand, he pulled out a handbook his father had given him, now riddled with bomb fragments. Looking at maps of his homeland, he dreamed of visiting hot springs with his parents after the war. The map had become more spiritual than practical, providing comfort 10 times its material value. June 30th, July 4th. The storm begins. "At last, the final decisive battle has come," Oura wrote, as American warships appeared off Rendova. 4 cruisers, 2 destroyers, 2 transports, and countless boats. By 8 a.m., the enemy had landed. Japanese planes finally arrived at 8:30, forcing the warships to withdraw, but American aircraft maintained constant patrol. 20 planes always overhead. The first taste of American firepower came that afternoon. 70 bombers dropped immense bombs, though scoring no direct hits. Naval shelling intensified over the following days. By July 2nd, Oura was scared to death, cowering in shelters as shells rained down. The contrast with Japanese capabilities became stark. If there were only some of our air forces, the warships would soon be put out of action. Rain soaked everyone nightly. Sleeping on wet ground gave the entire unit diarrhea. Some, like Corporal Nishimura, developed fevers reaching 107.6 degrees. Bodies became filthy, covered in rashes like poison oak. The combination of enemy fire, disease, and miserable conditions began taking its toll. July 5th, 10, the artillery holocaust. American artillery had found its range. Oura meticulously documented the intensity. Thousands of rounds daily, shells bursting within meters of positions. On July 8th, mail arrived. His first and possibly last letters from home. His father had written, "Fight to the last as an honorable warrior." Another message read, "Even though your soul should remain on the South Sea Islands, follow the will of heaven." The mathematical precision of American firepower stunned the Japanese. By July 10th, Oura calculated the enemy had fired at least 2,000 rounds in a single day. The artillery accuracy has become a real thing. We can never tell when we are to die. His anti-tank unit's precious guns were being destroyed one by one. When bombers knocked out another gun on July 12th, Oura wrote with bitter resignation, "This winds up things for this 3rd platoon leader. From now on, we are a labor company." July 13th through 18, descent into despair. Forced to relocate through dark jungle and mud while under constant fire, Oura's unit reached the breaking point. Deaths mounted. Sergeant Takaki, killed by naval shelling, Lance Corporal Ito, and 4 others missing. The contrast between American coordination and Japanese impotence became unbearable. I must say there was close cooperation between the enemy's air, land, and naval forces. Our forces have not carried out large-scale bombing. They haven't shelled Rendova with a single battleship, nor given the Army any heavy artillery. How could such action be called modern war? His bitterness deepened. We haven't been fighting, merely dying in the midst of bombs and shelling. Assigned to the East Lookout Post, the eye of all forces in Munda, Oura could observe American positions through binoculars. The U.S. flag fluttered on boats. Destroyers lay camouflaged at anchor. "You could call the scene a war movie," he wrote with dark irony. Moving boats and bursting shells looked as if you could almost grab them. July 19th, 22, living underground conditions deteriorated beyond imagination. Living in cramped dugouts with single entrances, men suffocated in stale air while explosions rang in their ears. "I haven't washed my body or face, nor brushed my teeth for a month. One upper front tooth broken off. My body smells like a wild dog." American shelling reached apocalyptic proportions. On July 21st, huge shells burst at the base of the East Lookout Post with great violence. Isn't there any other place for them to fire at? Yet, Oura had developed an eerie fatalism. I have come to a point where I have developed a belief that I will not be struck by a shell. This belief was tested July 22nd when a shell burst 1 meter away, covering him in coral. I thought I was really a goner this time. A piece of shrapnel hit my back, and I thought I was finished. Miraculously, no one died, but they could no longer maintain standing guard. "We're just leaving everything open to the enemy." July 23rd, the final entry. Oura's last diary entry represents complete despair mixed with defiant anger. "Battle situation, nothing aside from annihilation, no cooperation from the Navy. If I were to compare the complete cooperation of the enemy, it would be like the war of a child with an adult." He raged against higher command. What in the world could our forces at Rabaul or Imperial headquarters be doing? Where have our air forces and battleships gone? The technological mismatch had become insurmountable. We stand with rifles and bayonets to meet the enemy's aircraft, battleships, and medium artillery. To be told we must win is absolutely beyond reason. The Japanese army is still depending on hand-to-hand fighting of the Meiji era, while the enemy uses highly developed scientific weapons. His final words mixed pride with bitter resignation. This poorly armed force has not been overcome, and we are still guarding this island. But if our forces don't move, this island will soon be taken. In a war like this, where we are like a baby's neck in the hands of an adult, even if I die, it will be a hateful death. a Japanese officer, would believe until the very last in relief by air and naval forces. But Oura concluded with a note about contracting malaria again. This was his last entry. Epilogue. 6 days later, battered Japanese forces began withdrawing to Kolombangara. Munda airfield fell August 5th. Given the few prisoners taken and handful of Japanese who escaped New Georgia, Lieutenant Oura almost certainly perished. His diary remains a powerful testament to the human cost of technological and logistical superiority in modern warfare. While American forces methodically crushed Japanese positions with coordinated air, naval, and artillery bombardment, individual Japanese soldiers like Oura endured a special kind of hell, not the glory of combat, but slow annihilation by an enemy they could neither reach nor resist. Oura's words capture the psychological destruction that preceded physical defeat. Trained warriors reduced to cowering in holes, elite units transformed into labor companies, proud soldiers dying like a baby's neck in the hands of an adult. His diary reveals how modern firepower doesn't just destroy armies. It destroys the very concept of heroic resistance that sustained the Japanese military ethos. In the end, Lieutenant Toshihiro Oura left behind not a story of battlefield glory, but something more valuable, an honest account of how industrial warfare appears to those on its receiving end, waiting in the rain and mud for death from the sky.